Very good. Any other new business?
Mr. President.
Mr. Commissioner.
I assume that this is the part where we can respond to public comments?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if I may, Mr. Masson, thank you for providing us a written copy of your presentation. If I could just, in the interest of keeping things in context regarding Lakeland Community College, the Lake County Board of Commissioners also bears some blame for this debacle. It appears the commissioners appointed the trustees and thought that their job was complete. We need to remind your appointees that they are in charge and they do not report to the president. In pertinent part, I think that bears restating. I think it's also fair to, in context, point out that the report that triggered all of this clearly states that the board was not made aware of these financial difficulties and challenges. That the board president resigned 2 hours before this information was to become public. The board members that we appointed were among the most active members that took action and began uncovering these irregularities. I think I can say this with a high degree of confidence, and I dare say credibility, as I have been a strong supporter of Lakeland Community College, and I continue to be a strong supporter. They have problems, and they are taking charge and correcting them. When I say they, the board and the new administration coming in. The frustration that I share is that you can't fix things overnight. When information is being concealed, withheld, that's a problem. People need to be held accountable. They can't just empty out their offices and run and not have anything there. I personally was able to bear witness not too many weeks ago to the ribbon cutting, if you will, for the groundbreaking of the engineering building's refit and expansion. Our own Grace Gallucci of NOACA, the Northeast Ohio Area Recording Agency, was present, and she was pushed to the side, as was I. The reason I bring this up, they enjoyed a $4.2 million grant that they would not have otherwise been eligible for were it not for the efforts of NOACA. And quite frankly, I'm not real good at tooting my own horn, but I'll say it because of my leadership in getting a SEDS in place, which is qualifying several bodies to be able to enjoy federal dollars that we would otherwise not be eligible for. On that same day, an attack was launched against me as some kind of a whack job, liberal, woke, whatever, and NOACA as being some evil imperialistic organization. There are a number of people who need to be held accountable, sir. This board strives to put quality people in positions of trust and authority. I'll give you one more example. The Lake Tran board, they did the courageous thing by rescinding or suspending, more correctly, the collection of their 1/4% sales tax, which will be a direct benefit to the people of Lake County. They saw a surplus, they saw a need, they saw an opportunity. They also saw that grant dollars are coming in that were going to more than replace those tax dollars that were being collected. Grant dollars that were also funneling through NOACA, an organization which I was proud to say I did serve as president 2 consecutive years. More money is being brought to Lake County because of efforts that are going unseen and unspoken. I do have a certain frustration, and I hope you can hear it in my voice, when I'm being accused of being part of the problem and I'm part of the solution. And I say that extending to my colleagues also being part of the solution. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but there are good things that are taking place. We do try to appoint good quality people whenever, wherever possible. So I apologize for my just taking this moment to vent, but the reality is I want to make sure the record is clear. There are many pieces of this puzzle that are not being disclosed. And I think the public has a right to know there are a lot of good things going on behind the scenes that no one will ever hear about. I just wanted to give you a couple of examples of that. Thank you, Mr. President, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I would only add in the same spirit with respect to Mr. Gilbert's comments. I certainly feel strongly, and I'm very confident that the whole board agrees that property taxes have gotten out of control collectively. And we want to do everything we possibly can. It's important to note, just so residents understand, that Lake County already does more than most counties in terms of reducing property taxes. Of the 2.1 inside mills that Lake County is entitled to collect under state law, we only collect 1. We collect less than half. Other counties that have made minor reductions have not come close to giving up more than half their property taxes, as Lake County has voluntarily done and does so every single year. Any given year, the commissioners could take that full amount, haven't done it, won't do it. If and to the extent that when all the bills are paid, if and to the extent when we finally know what our capital cost is going to be for the jail project, which is going to be the major lift for the county, not just now, but really for the next 30 years, it'll be our biggest payment for capital. Once we know what that is, we know, is there surplus? Is there a deficit? Are we breaking even? We are not allowed to run at a deficit. We would be irresponsible to give money back and then take it back the next year. We need to know exactly where we're at. And I know that Mr. Boyd is working hard to get us to that guaranteed maximum price so that we have an understanding of what our budget is going to look like for the foreseeable future. I know that our state reps and senators are working hard to see if they can get some additional monies for Lake County in that jail project so that we may have more wiggle room going forward. But those are question marks. Those are X unknown values at this point, and I know that you would want us to be responsible and not make a promise that we can't keep. But if it does turn out that Lake County has extra money or surplus, I would be the happiest person in the room to be able to return something to the taxpayer. Even so, I have to give this footnote. Even if Lake County wiped out all the property taxes it collected, we're less than 1.5% of your bill. So if by some miracle we were to come into so much money that we were able to collect 0 property tax, the average resident wouldn't even notice if the county completely cut it back. So I don't want to sit here and pretend that we can be a bulwark against the entire tax increase that is going to come from revaluation under state law. The county doesn't have that kind of power. That said, we are working very hard with our state reps and senators to get additional aid for the county, to encourage them to roll back property taxes. I've said myself many times that I sincerely believe a first and a modest reform should be that anyone who is 65 years of age or older should pay no property taxes whatsoever. I know that's not enough, but I think that's a good starting point, and I've yet to hear a principled argument against it, other than we need the money, grumble, grumble, grumble. I've heard that. I won't name names, but I've heard that. But you know what? We don't need the money as much as we need to respect our seniors and folks who have paid the bills for 65 years for a lifetime. So I sincerely hope that our state legislature is sincere about reforming property taxes. I know they formed a committee. I'm not a huge believer in that, but I'm hoping that committee is a good starting point where good things will come. And in the meanwhile, we're doing everything we can. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, number one, the county doesn't know where we are at budgetarily until that jail is set and paid for. And we also don't know where we're at until we know if we're getting any help for that project. So we need to resolve those question marks to know, do we have any extra capacity? And then I have to humbly admit that even if we do, even if the county collected no property tax, it would not be near enough that the average resident would even notice the difference on their bill. We need to do better than a 1.5% reduction on people's property taxes when we're looking at a 30% revaluation and potentially 15% increases in actual tax bills. Now, once again, these are all estimates and guesstimates. I'm not here to tell you what your individual bill will be. My last revaluation, I went up 56%. So I can't speak to anyone's individual bill, but I just wanted to sincerely share that with you, Leonard. We do care, and it's not something we aren't thinking about every day. Any other new business?
Mr. President,
Mr. Commissioner?
Follow on to what you said, sir. I appreciate your sentiments regarding aspirational tax reform. But as we all well know, I'm a big applied science guy, so let's talk about achievable tax reform. We as a taxing authority can talk to other taxing authorities and lead by example and encourage them to just say no to any windfalls. to be hardships associated with this 30+% reevaluation coming, taxing authorities have the ability to just say no. I've said this before, I'm saying it now, I will continue to say it in the future. We have the ability to be the tip of the spear. We have the ability to lead. So I hope that that stays on our hearts and in the front of our minds as we go forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other new business? Hearing none.